Are we really serious on ending the war against drugs? So we need to ask ourselves fundamental questions, because there is no easy way around this. The lives of our children are on the line. The future of our country is on the line. So we need to address these questions, this issue squarely. Hello everyone, welcome to Crystal Centric Film House, and as always, I am your host, Notu David. It goes without saying that there are crooks, there are perpetrators, there are pharmaceutical companies who are behind the influx of drugs on our streets at industrial, amounts. Let's not deceive ourselves. Let's get straight to the heart of the matter, because until you have come face to face with a young person hooked on drugs, then you will know that there is actually a problem on our streets. When a person is addicted to drugs, he loses control of his senses, he loses control of his powers. All he wants at that moment is the substance. And they will be willing to do anything to get that fix. Reason why we have criminal gangs all over the streets. Reason why we have petty thefts, robberies, and attacks. A person hooked on drugs, addicted to drugs, is unable to gain employment, is on the streets. Then how does he fund the habit? Definitely he will be forced into crime. Definitely he will be forced into robbery and taken from other people. And since he is unemployable, he can't get money, he has to steal. And who is he stealing from? If the person resists, perhaps he has to be armed. So in the process, we're making criminals out of our children. We're making murderers. We're creating gangs and fraudsters. It's all connected. And the earlier we put a stop to it, the better for us all. This is not to say that the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency hasn't been doing their part. Of course, they've been trying to rid our streets of drugs, but the war needs to be taken to the pharmaceutical companies. The war needs to be taken to the foot of those in the offices of government who facilitate the influx of drugs on our streets. We need to be serious about this. We need to give this all the importance that it takes. We've had stories and stories, so many stories of police complicity, of pharmaceutical experts complicity who act as drug barons, who for the sake of an extra penny, who for reasons of greed or other nefarious reasons best known to them, illegally sell these drugs to underage users, illegally sell these drugs in large quantities to retailers, to those who put them in the streets, in city areas. It's common knowledge in the streets that there are bad eggs in the police force, there are bad eggs in the government who compromise and allow these drugs to get to the streets. And of course, we know that young people are curious. You find teenagers all over the street, they're curious to learn, they're curious to know what this is. Some of them get lucky, they don't get addicted, but others are not so lucky. They get addicted and they lose control of their senses. Some go raving mad. You go to rehabilitation centers, you find people between the ages of 18, even 16, 17, up to 30 years old, living miserable lives with chains on their hands and their feet, suffering from withdrawal symptoms. This is not the way to go. This is totally not the way we should build our people. The government, as well as other civil society organizations, need to create rehabilitation centers, need to create more awareness on this problem. We hear issues of rape every day. Some of these perpetrators of this acts of rape, this illegality, are people who are high on drugs, are people who are forced to drugs. Just the other day, about 6 men had a lady, not more than 18 years, in a hotel room, and they were all taking turns. 2 men were having sex with her while 3 were watching. This is not the kind of society we want, that is unsafe for our children, that is unsafe for our girls, that is unsafe for our women. We need to do something seriously about this matter. We hear every day of issues of theft, issues of petty robberies, and these are not unrelated to drugs. Today in Nigeria, we're facing a huge problem, the problem of banditry, a problem of kidnapping. Some of these people who perpetrate these acts, they do it out of their minds, they do it out of their senses. And what is the driving force for this? Drugs, hard drugs of all categories. We have marijuana, tobacco in high quantities. I was privileged to counsel a young man the other day. He had wraps of marijuana in his palms and he was chewing it. Not smoking, but chewing it. you could see obviously that a young man wasn't doing quite well mentally. And there are many others like him across the country. So we need to take stock of what our young people are doing, where these drugs are coming from, and who is responsible. Someone must be held accountable. How do we retrace our steps from this problem, from this pandemic? Fortunately, it is not a hopeless situation. It is not a hopeless situation if all hands will be on deck, if everyone will see this as a personal problem, as a problem that is personal to them. Every family is at risk. Out of 10 families, 8 have had an experience with drug abuse. I personally have had drug abuse experiences with members of my extended family. And it is not an easy thing to say, it is not an easy thing to talk about. But we must talk about it, we must face it. The earlier we stop shying away from these hard talks, from these hard conversations, the better for us. We must confront it head on. How? What are the ways by which you can do this? Provide proper counseling centers for our young people. Create more awareness generating centers. Ban drug sale points. Have agents, federal agents, monitor how these drugs are purchased and how they are distributed. We need to take proactive measures in ensuring that our streets are rid of drugs, that our young people are not destroyed before their time through the use, misuse, or abuse of drugs, illegal drugs, as the case may be. Take a look at the codeine pandemic that ravaged mainly northern Nigeria. Of course, it was a nationwide problem, but mainly northern Nigeria was affected. Statistics released by the NDLEA showed that over 5 million bottles of codeine are consumed daily. Issues of drug abuse and all matters surrounding it cannot be totally exhausted in one sitting. And given the seriousness of this matter, we will have to continue this conversation. How drugs are affecting our young people, how they're affecting their mental state, how they're affecting their ability to be gainfully employed, how they are increasing crime in our society, crimes such as rape, robbery, banditry, kidnapping. These are all not unconnected to the use of psychoactive substances. And we must talk about this if we as a country must find a way forward. So, join us in our next episode where we'll be having a panelist discussion and people talking about rape and drug abuse, violence and drug abuse, and generally, health and employment. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, please do not hesitate to do so as we'll bring you news across the world, breaking news from all parts of Africa and the world. So like and follow us on our YouTube channel. Once again, I am your host, Bonotu David, and be safe until we meet next time.